Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am very happy to have this chance to show you all our presentation. Before I start my presentation, let me introduce myself first. My name is Ghinan Muhammad Zulfa, representative of Group 7. Today, I will share our research to every single one of you, which the title of our presentation is The Potential of Biogas from Human Extracta in Indonesia. Okay, let's this, let's start the presentation to make our time efficient. Let me introduce the outline first. Our presentation will be given in 9 parts. The first part concerns about the background why we choose biofuel as an alternative fuel. And the second part is explain all about biofuel which we gonna use as our alternative energy soon. In the third part, I will describe the types of biofuels, and in the fourth part, we will discuss the advantage and disadvantage of biofuel. Next, in the sixth part, we're gonna discuss about the sanitary condition in the world, the universe rather. Then, the use of human extractor for biogas generation. The seventh part, I will describe potential of human extractor utilization for biogas generation in Indonesia. The eighth part, we're gonna discuss about anaerobic digestion. Finally, the last part, I will summarize all of my presentation today. Well, let's move on to the first part, the background why we choose biofuel as an alternative fuel. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Okay, why we choose biofuel? In recent time, the world has been confronted with an energy crisis due to the depletion of fossil fuel reserves and increased environmental problems. For developing countries, fuels of bioorigin such as ethanol, vegetable oil, biomass, biogas, etc. are becoming focus of attention. Shrinking crude oil reserves and limited refining capacity, world will have to depend heavily on imports of crude oil. From the point of view of protecting the global environment and the concern for long-term supplies of conventional fuels, it becomes imperative to develop alternate fuels comparable with conventional fuels. So, biofuels is the only alternative. Beside of this reason, let me give you another proof. Why should biofuel? Let's move to the next slide, which explains the other reason why should we use biofuel as the alternate fuels comparable with conventional fuels. Alright, the first one is increasing energy requirement. The second, thrust on resource conservation. Third, soaring oil prices. Next, the fourth is stringent environmental regulation. Why though? The world energy economy is carbon-based, with oil, gas, and coal accounting for 88% of global primary energy consumption. Heavy reliance on fossil fuels is in fact nearly 2 centuries old, preceded by the wood-burning evaporation era of the 1600 till 1800. Such a long history of fossil fuel dependence indicates how difficult a transition to a non-carbon-based economy will be. Clearly, such a transition will be revolutionary in scope and necessarily involve almost unprecedented commitment and action by government and industry throughout the world. Yet, given the increasing level of monosodium oxide, mononitrogen oxide, carbon, and other pollutants emitted through the burning and utilization of fossil fuels, a transition to non-carbon energy is inevitable, though the exact timing is subject to debate. So by the biofuel, which is energy derived from plants, and with that, even the pollution produced it will not be pollutants that cause damage toward our environment. So the next reason is reducing availability. From all the reasons above, let's focus to the two terms, which is energy crisis and the environmental aspect. Alright, to know more about what two terms, let's move to the next slide, which will describe about energy crisis. Okay, first of all, please look at the graph. What do you see from the graph? We will continue finding out what is going on there. Okay, the graph shows that oil consumption in several regions increased year by year, while in the same time fossil fuels are unrenewable energy and will run out when used constantly. Growing consumption of energy has also resulted in the country becoming increasingly dependent on fossil fuels such as coal, oil, and gas. Rising prices oil, gas and coal, and potential shortage in future lead to concerns about the security of energy supply needed to sustain our economic growth. Increased uses of fossil fuels have also caused environmental problems both locally and globally. Against this background, the country urgently needs to develop a sustainable path of energy development. Okay, let's move to the next slide, which is describe us about environmental aspect when we use conventional fuel. First of all, please look at the pictures. What do you see from that pictures? We will continue finding out what is going on there. Air and water pollution, wildlife habitat loss, global warming emission, and damage to public health is the result of conventional fuel for our environment. The fuel used to power vehicle, cars, motorbikes, to heavy trucks is one of the main factors that contribute to air pollution. Exhaust come from exhaust and pollutes the air, including nitrogen oxide, carbon monoxide to hydrocarbon. Vehicle exhaust also contributes poisonous particles that affect human health the most. PM is the mixtures of solid and molten materials created by fueling, including traffic jams. One study suggests that these emissions account for more than half of the toxic substances in the air. This poisonous gas results in smoke that pollutes the sky to make a hole in the ozone. So that's why, eventually triggering a global warming emission. The exhaust from a vehicle exhaust not only pollutes the environment, but also the air that every single one of you breathe. This condition produces the effects of fuel combustion that are severe enough for health, ranging from respiratory ailment to death. The World Health Organization (WHO) notes at least 7 million people die each year as a result exposure to air pollution. In addition, air polluting resulting from motor vehicle exhaust can also cause health problems in humans, ranging from low levels to serious ones. Okay, we talk a lot about biofuel, but do you know what biofuel is? Alternative fuel, such as biofuel, has been developed by many countries, including Indonesia. Indonesia, as one of the highest populated countries and has wide areas of agriculture, forest, and crop pile, is potential to be the highest biofuel production in the world. To make the definition of biofuel more exact, let's move to the next slide. Okay, what is biofuel? Biofuel can be determined as a fuel from organic resources, including plants and animals. Biofuel has a specific characteristic that is renewable, whereas it can be produced by using raw material which can be grown or developed. So for now, we already know what biofuel is. Same as us, biofuel have third generation. Are you curious about it? Since every single one of you might curious about it, let's see it on the next slide. There are three generations of biofuels. The first generation biofuels generally refers to the biofuel produced from human food-based feedstock through thermochemical and biochemical processes. The second generation of biofuels refer to those produced from non-edible lipids or in particular lignocellulose material through more advanced manufacturing processes than the first generation one. Okay, and the last generation is third generation biofuels. What is third generation biofuels? The third generation biofuels produced by microbial organisms, including microalgae and bacteria, which contain magnitudes of various order of triglyceride, protein, or carbohydrate content according to their specific strain. Before we go to the next slide, I want to ask something to every single one of you. Did every single one of you ever heard about biogas, bioethanol, or maybe biodiesel? If you never heard about it, no need to worry. Let me describe it to every single one of you about it. The three things are types of biofuels. So to know more about it, let's move to the next slide. The types of biofuels. Okay, the first one we have biodiesel. Next, we have biogas, and the last we have bioethanol. Probably, most of you are still familiar with these three types of biofuels. But to know more about it, let me explain it to every single one of you one by one. Okay, the first one is biodiesel. Biodiesel is a monoalkyl ester of fatty acid from vegetable oil and is presently produced by catalytically trans-esterification process with petrochemically derived ethanol. Okay, the next one is biogas. Biogas is a mixture of mostly methane and carbon dioxide, which being purified to methane can be used for generation of heat or electricity, liquefaction into methanol, compression into car fuel, and purification into feed gas. Biogas can be produced from various biomass resources such as microalgae, food wastes, agricultural residues, animal manures, poultry waste, municipal solid waste, industrial waste, forestry waste, and some dedicate energy crops. Anaerobic digestion or AD is the core step in generating biogas. And not only that, biogas also can be made from human extracta. The use of human extracta for biogas generation considered beneficial either in the term of process or environment. Okay, the last but not least is bioethanol. Bioethanol in first generation ethanol production processes, readily available sugars or starch are utilized. The ethanol produced is readily used in today's engine. During the process, carbon dioxide is extracted from carbohydrate which have CHO ratio of 1 to 1. Ethanol, with its high to O ratio, retains most of the original energy content. Because cell can be produced much less energy from this anaerobic reaction than from oxidative respiration, it has to consume about 10 times the amount of substrate to gain the same amount of energy. 2 till 3 ATP compared to 26 till 38 ATP in oxidative respiration. Depending on the organism, this higher turnover of substance is an advantage for biotechnology. This anaerobic fermentation also helps to avoid energy-intensive aeration during industrial production. With a short description of the three types of biofuels above, I'm sure that every single one of you wondering about the advantage and disadvantage of the three kind of biofuels. So let's discuss that things one by one in the next slide. The first one is advantage and disadvantage of biogas. The advantage of biogas. The first one is it is a renewable source of energy. The second one is non-polluting. Next, it reduces landfills. And the last, it reduces greenhouse effect. But every advantage will always have the disadvantage. So let's see the disadvantage of biogas. The first one is little technology advancement. The second one is it consists of impurities. And the last is biogas is not attractive on large scale. Okay, let's see to the next one. The bioethanol advantage and disadvantage. The advantage of bioethanol is these properties allow for a higher compression ratio. The next one, shorter burn time. And the last, bioethanol can learn burn engine. But this advantage could have a disadvantage too. So let's see to the disadvantage of bioethanol. The first one, bioethanol have lower energy density than gasoline. The second one is corrosiveness. The third, lower vapor pressure. And the last one is toxicity to ecosystem. The last one is advantage and disadvantage of biodiesel. The advantage of biodiesel are these properties allow for a higher compression ratio. The second one, significantly better lubricating properties. And the last, significant reduction of particulate matter emission. Okay, let's see to the biodiesel disadvantage. The first one is currently more expensive than fossil diesel fuel. The second one, it can only be used in diesel powered engines. And the last, biodiesel causes increases in mononitrogen oxide. This is the last one. So after we have studied the advantage and disadvantage of the three types of biofuels, as we can see that biogas has a higher advantage than its disadvantage. Then, the material for the production of biogas are readily available and always found in everyday life. So by that, let's focus the discussion on biogas. As we know above, in the third part, which is the part that describes us about types of biofuel, there is a statement on biogas subpart and made every single one of you curious about it. That says, not only that, biogas also can be made from human extracta. The use of human extracta for biogas generation considered beneficial either in the term of process or environment. So let's find out more about it by move to this next slide. Sanitary condition in the world. Using data released by the Population Division, the Department of Economic and Social Problems, United Nations or UN, it is estimated that the world's population by 2020 is nearly 7.8 billion. Then, which countries have the most people in the world? Using this data, the following are 10 countries with the world highest population estimate by 2020. The most populous country in the world is China. It is estimated that by the year 2020, the number of people in this region of East Asia is 1.44 billion or 18.46% of the world's population. The second largest country in the world is India, with an estimated 1.38 billion people, with greater population growth than China. The region in South Asia is expected to become the world's largest population in the next few years. And the next, we have the United States of America, with an estimated population of 331 million, ranks third in the world's largest population and the largest in the North America continent. Next, in the line is our country, Indonesia. This country in the Southeast Asia region is estimated to have a population of 273 million by 2020. So we can imagine the huge potential of human extractor biofuel as an alternative fuel, especially in our country Indonesia, which has the fourth highest population density in the world. This is of great interest to discuss. Have we ever thought that something we consider to be worthless can have enormous potential and might even affect our life? To discuss it, let's move to the next slide. The use of human extractor for biogas generation. Human extractor as biogas could be part of a sanitation alternative for developing countries where water availability is limited. Additionally, this work shows that anaerobic digestion of human stimulant extractor can provide a meaningful source of energy. Biogas yields ranging from 0.24 to 0.44 NL biogas G1 COD were obtained in the lab, which correspond to about 24 to 44 NL biogas per person per day. The COD removal reached about 80%, while further studies are needed to assess the value of the digested air fertilizer. It is anticipated that the digestate contains most of the nitrogen and phosphorus content of the feed, and thus could be used locally if sanitized. Both biogas and locally produced fertilizer have been shown by others to have potential for significant economic and environmental impacts at the household level. As for the low C and raw material, the maximum ton concentration reached 3,659 milligram per liter in the fermentation system of human extractor, respectively, which not remarkably influenced the biogas production, but decreased the efficient utilization of TFA and methane content. Each year, large amount of water resource is consumed to adjust the feeding concentration to 3.50%, and the methane yield of human extractor is only 471 methane per meter cubic. Therefore, suggestions have been proposed to achieve its sustainable development and high efficient operation. Firstly, feeding concentration should be increased properly. And secondly, digestate in sedimentation tank can be used to dilute. Okay, let's see to the next slide. Potency of human extractor utilization for biogas generation in Indonesia. Okay, first of all, please look at the graph first. We will continue finding out what is going on there. Potency of human extractor utilization for biogas generation in Indonesia. The potency of biogas generated from human extractor is clearly advantageous considering the large number of Indonesian population and also high population growth as described in the prediction of Indonesian population in the following few years ahead. The potency of biogas from human extractor that possible to be generated in Indonesia can be seen in graph 1. The reason why human extractor that possible to be generated in Indonesia is because from the graph we can see that from 10 years ago till now the population in Indonesia is growing, and we can predict that for the future the population in Indonesia will continue to increase, and human was will also definitely increase. So if we talk more about biogas, it's incomplete without anaerobic digestion. So what is anaerobic digestion and what the relation between it and biogas? Let's check it out in the next slide. What is anaerobic digestion? Anaerobic digestion, or AD, is a very old and naturally occurring biological process. In AD, organic components are biodegraded into biogas through the synergetic action of various bacterial and archaeal species under oxygen-free conditions. Beside of that, we could say anaerobic digestion is a sequence of processes by which microorganisms break down biodegradable material in the absence of oxygen. The process is used for industrial or domestic purposes to manage waste or to produce fuels. Much of the fermentation used industrially to produce food and drink products, as well as home fermentation uses anaerobic digestion. Okay, next, please look at the picture. What do you see in the picture? We will continue finding out what is going on there. From the picture, especially in this slide, we have a picture that shows configuration and operation of anaerobic digester. The digester is cuboid shaped and fitted with a dome holding the gas and floating in a weather jacket surrounding the reactor. The temperature was maintained at 30 degrees Celsius by heating the weather jacket with an aquarium heater. The biogas present in the digester was collected in the floating dome. So maybe every single one of us curious, does anaerobic digestion of human extracta for biogas production really effective? So let's move to the next slide to prove it. Alright, we can say that anaerobic digestion of high-strength undiluted human simulant extracta in simple unmixed anaerobic digester is feasible and effective. Why though? This approach could be part of a sanitation alternative for developing countries where water availability is limited. Additionally, this work shows that anaerobic digestion of human simulant extracta can provide a meaningful source of energy. Okay, this is the last part of our presentation today. From our presentation, we conclude that among three types of biofuels, biogas is the most suitable alternative which can be implemented in Indonesia to solve an energy crisis due to depletion of fossil fuels reserves and increased environmental problems. Biogas based by human extractor is promising energy source because it has so many advantages than other types of biofuels and suitable for Indonesian considering the large number of Indonesia population and high population growth. So that we should developing this energy for a better future energy. Wendell Berry once said, this curious fate is predicted on the notion that we will soon develop unlimited new sources of energy, domestic oil fields, shale oil, gasified coal, nuclear power, solar energy, and so on. This is fantastical because the basic cause of the energy crisis is not scarcity. It is moral ignorance and weakness of character. We don't know how to use energy or what to use it for, and we cannot restrain ourselves. Our time is characterized as much by the abuse and waste of human energy as it is by the abuse and waste of fossil fuel energy. To close our presentation today, I want to say thank you for your attention, and I do apologize if I do much of mistakes because I still learn about it. So, thank you for having me. Goodbye.